is. And we're starting to record. And I think, Chris, are you going to let in all the people? Are they coming in? Cool. We've got about 45 participants are logging in, but we have about almost 300 people that have registered for this webinar. So I'm pretty excited. We've already got 60 people in. My guess is we'll end up with 60 to 80 people on the live. And then we'll end up about that same amount watching the recording. And then we'll get another listening to the podcast. So I love this stuff. I feel very honored today. My name is Sara Kooperman. I'm the CEO of SCW, and I'm here with Chris Sunningen. He is one of our amazing creative people. And oh my gosh, Andrea decided to show up. Nice hair. Okay. And we've got Andrea Metcalf with us, who just showed up. She's been in the business over 40 years right now. She was actually featured on NBC's Today Show, the Steve Harvey Show. She's been on Oprah. She's been in all these places. She owns 3 clubs in the Chicagoland area, Pilates studios, and she's also the owner of FLX Stretch Training, which specializes in recovery, mobility, and instructor training. So we're very happy to have Andrea with us today. We've got my dear friend, Ed Laskowski. He's a doctor with the Mayo Clinic. He is the former co-director of the Mayo Clinic Sports Medicine Division. And he comes to us, I think are you in Rochester right now?
Yeah,
he is in Rochester.
Nice sunset in the background.
Yeah, really. Oh, that looks natural. He's also a professor in the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehabilitation and the Division of Sports Medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. You know, that's the mothership for Mayo Clinic. He brings us a lot of research with him in rehabilitation. He also served on the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports under Presidents Bush and Obama. He also is a physician with the U.S. Olympic team. So like the rest of us can just leave right now. Right, Kelly? Now, I'm telling you, Keli Roberts is one of the most well-educated individuals in the fitness industry I've ever met. I don't think I've ever shared that with you, Kelly, how impressed I've always been with you. I should let her introduce herself. She is certified by everyone. NASM, she's done things with ACE, she is also on the SCW faculty leading the our active aging certification, our personal training certification. She's been fitness instructor of the year with IDEA and best female presenter. She's gotten lifetime achievement awards with the Empower conference. Amazing individual. And she's also an ACSM exercise physiologist. So this is kind of very cool for us to have her with us. And Gilbert, of course, I always say, is one of our leading active aging educators in the world. She owns her own studio, Fit Her, which is located in Florida, and she manages over 50 trainers and individual instructors, which, that alone is a feat. She's an expert in exercise and aging. She coordinates all sorts of programs and actually helped to write our AOM certification, our anti-obesity medication, our GLP-1 certification for fitness, because she runs a specialty course and specializes that in the Tampa area. She does an incredible amount of small group training. She has led the SCW Active Aging Certification, Aquatic Exercise, Group Fitness, Water and Motion, and SEAT, which she choreographs and co-created a supported exercise for ageless training. That's the chair program, SEAT, that lovely acronym. All right, we've done enough of that. This webinar actually typically goes from on the East Coast time, 7 till 7:45. This is a special one. We're supposed to go to 8 p.m. I'm going to leave us some time here for you guys to ask questions. So this is your panel. This is your webinar. So if you move your mouse and you look down, you're going to see the green share button. What I'd like you to do is just move 2 little ticks over to the left, and you're going to see the chat button. And what you can do is you can put your questions into the chat and we will try to answer them. What I would like you to do, if you could, is try to put in the chat, and Chris Senegin, can you help us with this so that they can comment in the chat box? I'd like to know your name and where you are from. And if you would do that, that would be great. And you can just post it to everyone. And hopefully, I'm not seeing anybody come through. So I'm not quite sure if we've got this up and running properly at this point. Chris, I'm going to let you try to play with that and see if we can come up. Oh, there we go.
Yep, chat's on. Everyone should be able to pop their questions in there.
Yeah, I only see Anne. I'm worried that it's a little bit of the panelists that can do this only. So I'm not quite sure. Well, we've got 84 people with us. What I would like you to do, let me see if I can come up with another solution. I'm going to give you my email address and I'm going to put it in the chat. And I'm not sure if this can go to everyone, but if you have a question, I'm going to let you just email me at my personal Gmail address. I just put it in right now. So there we go. Of course, Chris Senegin, our brilliant, figured it all up. It's working now. So I'm getting it. I've got Kathy from New Hampshire. I've got Leanne from Wisconsin, Diane from Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Indiana, Florida, Minnesota, Michigan, the Bay Area, which is fantastic, California, Boston, New York, Florida. Fabulous. You guys, it's all working. So when you have questions, I want you, we got people from Canada. I want you to please put your questions in the chat. I watch it and I will address it. I promise. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Ed. Why is strength training essential for aging adults?
Well, great question, Sarah. And, just all of us, as we get older, our body changes, our physiology changes, and we lose about 10% of our lean muscle mass per decade after age 30. So, and that's everybody. It's not, it's just what happens to us. So unless we replace that, we have a significant impact. We tend to lose lean muscle and we tend to gain fat, about 10 fat pounds per decade after age 30. So, and that translates into really a lot of our functional aspects that we do in daily life, getting up out of chairs, having the power to do things. So if we don't replace that lean muscle, we're at a disadvantage as far as quality of life, as well as even quantity. And it's amazing how much strength training really affects metabolic parameters that you think, everybody thinks, oh yeah, I should do aerobic stuff. And, I know I have heart health and everything. But I'm amazed always in strength training at what the metabolic benefits are. In essence, it actually lowers your blood pressure, both systolic and diastolic numbers. It actually lowers the bad cholesterol, LDL. It actually raises the good cholesterol, HDL. It actually makes you more sensitive to insulin. So type 2 diabetes, as we know, is the adult onset diabetes. If you can metabolize that sugar well, you don't get it. And strength training helps you with that. So there's a myriad of reasons to do it. And really, even for weight loss, we need a big engine in which to burn calories. So if you're losing lean muscle, you're losing that engine. It's like having a 4-cylinder instead of a V8. If we have a V8, we're going to burn more calories. So it's really, it impacts our quality of life. We're going to be able to do things easier. Strong muscles protect joints as well. They stabilize joints. So just a myriad of reasons why we may, we always think about the aerobic component, but we may not think about all those other maybe unique benefits that we don't think of normally for strength training.
Oh, excellent. Keli, can you elaborate a little bit?
Oh, I love Dr. Ed's analogy about the V8 engine. And I know when I first started learning about strength training, I was very excited because if it elevates your resting metabolic rate, if you've got more muscle, because muscle's metabolically active, then you can eat more. And that really excited me. I was like, bring it on. I like to eat. So yeah, having an active metabolism is definitely a big plus as you get older. You don't have to age badly. You can age well. And having good muscle mass as you get older keeps you independent. It keeps your gait speed fast. You can walk faster. You are much more independent, and all of that really funnels into longevity. And it also, one of the things it does is it keeps your grip strength. It maintains grip strength, and grip strength is closely correlated with longevity as well as walking speed and VO2. So some of the little hidden gems in strength training, if you are holding things like dumbbells, you're going to improve your grip strength as well as your total body strength. So I like dumbbells and kettlebells as a tool.
And what I also like is what you brought up, Keli, is the safety factor. If someone can walk faster, if someone can move better, that the risk of fall is, I'm not going to say it's minimized, but it is reduced significantly. And that's very important because as we age, I believe our type 2 muscle fibers, our fast twitch fibers are the ones that atrophy so significantly. And if we can do the strength training and we can do power training, this will help prevent, hopefully, those falls and improve our quality of life. And Andrea, you're nodding here. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And amazingly, how your hair looks so good after yanking it down, girl. I don't know. I want the trick. So tell me, you work with a lot of older adults at your facility. Do you think that our adults are getting more and more, our older adults are getting more and more active?
Well, we're definitely seeing a change in the average age of who's coming into our studio. And I was nodding with Keli because she's like, I could eat more. I'm like, yeah, and you can sleep better because you've got a higher metabolism while you're sleeping when you're more lean muscle mass. But as far as older adults coming in, yes, they are. And we are working on things like balance and getting out of a chair quickly and using some of these real common tests to kind of see where they're at. And then using the joy of fitness through musicality, through a chair, or whatever way they can move, getting them stimulated. You know, I was saying this past weekend at the Midwest Mania, I have a client that he was 6'4", he's about 6'2" now. We do dribbling drills still, and that gets him coordinated by hand. It makes him happy and feel youthful again because he's doing a sport that he loved his whole life. So, being creative is a big part of this as well.
Yes, definitely. And what are you seeing at your facility?
I'm seeing all of the above. What great answers, by the way. I live this every single day. I'm grateful to be part of the panel, but I'm also really giggling because this is my life day in and day out, not just because I am the older active adult, but I'm seeing people focused on resilience. I think that's a word that we don't use enough. And being resilient against the onset of disease, which is a scary thought. So when you're in the club on a daily basis and you're talking to people about recurrence and being resilient, I think that's the most important thing. Our shirts now say we are the best we can be. We are resilient. And I think that that's really what everyone is saying in a nutshell, resilience. Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I found interesting is, again, I'm going back to Midwest Mania also, Andrea. And you were talking about a very interesting study that was at the Mayo Clinic. I mean, typically we think what we need to do are 3 sets of approximately 10 to 12 reps, proper posture, proper alignment, and that's going to give us our best strength training benefits. And I was very fascinated by the study that you were talking about at the Mayo that deals with really working towards muscle exhaustion.
Right, Sarah. And you know, it's there's a lot of tradition in weight training and strength training. And I think to motivate people, we don't have a lot of people doing it. So to really get people enticed and excited about it, one of the things that can demotivate them, oh, I have to do 3 or 4 or 6 sets, and they hear words like periodization and all this, and not just ours, but there's multiple studies that show that once you fatigue a muscle, you do what you need to do to get that muscle to change positively, to really secrete the adaptive proteins and everything to make it anabolic, to make it stronger and to make it grow. And I think that will motivate people because they don't have to spend an hour and a half in the weight room. They can spend maybe 20 minutes. And to fatigue it, just meaning if we're doing the exercise, say if we're working our biceps, you're working it and oh, that last repetition, that's really hard. That you've done about 90% of what, and again, we get into little discussions with a lot of the muscle physiology people. Can you get more with, you can get more with multiple sets, but the huge majority is with single set to fatigue. So to entice people to, hey, this doesn't have to take that long in your schedule, and you don't have to lift 500 pounds. And you know, that fatigue, we get the thing where we think of people lifting that 3rd rep. Oh, you can fatigue at rep 37 as long as you fatigue, and that higher rep is probably going to mean your form is more perfect, your technique is good, you're probably maintaining body posture better than if you're trying to compensate and trying to lift these big heavy weights. So for the population as a whole, you know, it's encouraging news. We don't have to lift 500 pounds. We don't have to do 6 sets. We're going to get huge benefit with that single set to fatigue.
And I think if you think about professional athletes, they're the ones that may want to do those 3 sets, that want to take a break in between and then go. But we're training for life. Okay. And that's what we're doing, and working to fatigue, making sure you've exhausted the muscle fiber, staying in proper form allows us a lot of freedom with the type of workouts we can do. With the Pilates, with bar programs, with reformers. Reformers have made a huge surge in the fitness community, and making sure that you're staying in that proper posture, that proper alignment seems to be more and more important. Keli, you were talking about, you just kind of glanced over it, but you talked about using kettle weights. And that, you know, you're talking about being able to swing something. And I always think, oh my gosh, I'm not in a controlled and, you know, a controlled form and alignment. And here I am, an older adult, and I'm swinging something. And I'm also thinking, am I doing a little bit of power training? How do you integrate that? And what are the effects you're seeing?
I think you have to look at the individual that you're training to see whether that's going to be an appropriate strategy. But I was working with someone this morning, and I was teaching her to do kettlebell swings, and she's not old, she's only 68, but I've been training her for about 7 months. She got a DEXA scan when I started training her, and she had a recent DEXA scan just a couple months back, and she lost 10% body fat in, you know, just several months. And I've been doing some power training with her. You know, she's going to go on a huge hike. She's going to do the Camino in Spain. And so she's training for that. So I'm training her quite hard. We're doing a lot of resistance exercise. And I've started to incorporate, I've built her up to, I didn't start with power training, but I've built her up to incorporating a little bit of power development, because that's going to be helpful for her for these 10-mile, you know, of course, her endurance needs to be very good for long hikes, but, you know, to be able to step up over something quickly and, you know, lift her own body weight and move a pack. She's only carrying a day pack, but things like that. I think it's important to incorporate some power training, but you've got to look at it on a continuum. If a kettlebell swing is high on that continuum.
Mm-hmm.
So I might not do that with someone to begin with, but if it's appropriate for that individual, I might move towards that. It might be that I just have that person stand up quickly from a sit to stand squat and then sit down with control. And that might be where I start on that power continuum to begin with. But I think training for power and training some of that fast twitch muscle fiber, which is what we lose in sarcopenia. If we look at sarcopenia, or the loss of muscle due to aging, or aging and inactivity, we see a selective loss of fast twitch muscle fiber. And that means that we want to train our fast twitch muscle fiber by doing some faster movements, maybe not super heavy, but if you're fatiguing within 8 to 10 to maybe 12, maybe even 15 reps with good form, with immaculate form, then you've got a better chance of grabbing some of those fast twitch muscle fibers and stimulating some power, some ability to move fast.
And I think that's so interesting. You know, we know that we lose whole motor units, you know, Ed talked about after the age of 30. But I'm hearing, like Keli, you said she gained 10 pounds of muscle in a couple months.
No, she lost 10% body fat.
She lost 10% body fat. What happened to her muscle?
She gained muscle as well. She gained muscle. She gained about 3% muscle mass.
3% muscle mass.
Yeah, but lost 10% body fat. So she was in the caloric deficit. To have lost body fat and not lost muscle, to have made a slight gain in muscle, was really significant at the age of 68.
Yes. And when somebody just loses weight by diet alone, they're losing bone, muscle, and water.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that they're doing the strength training to keep it up, because life is power training. Life is being able to grab a grandchild.
Yes.
Life is being able to catch yourself before you fall.
Yes.
And these type of activities are so important. And you do a lot of small group training.
We do a lot of small group training. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you talk to us about what you're doing with these older adults that are in small group training, and also the psychological benefits of being in a small group?
That's my jam, Sarah. So thanks for asking. You know, our facility really opens its doors widely to people that have never exercised before. The 80% of the population that we're talking about that's been told they should, or has listened to this webinar and says, oh, I need to get started. And there's two things that we conquer right away. And the first is fear. The fear of exercising. Will I get hurt? Will I like it? Does it fit my body? And then the increase of need for body awareness. So in a small group training, we've been successful in bringing people together. One, there's socialization, just like us all together today. There's an accountability factor that does not happen when I train just with Keli, because I can cancel on Keli or Andrea any day I want, but I wouldn't cancel on this group. I'd always show up. So there's that positive accountability. There's a little bit of competition to strive to learn more together, and they feel so much more successful. So if you're dealing with beginners like we do in our facility, we conquer their fear by putting them together in partners for those specific reasons. But we really start with a lot more body awareness than you think about when we're not talking about sets and reps yet, but just understanding how the body feels and learning the need for stabilization before mobilization and how to feel that in the body. So I think that I love the fact that we deal with beginners. My job is to really address the 80% that's not in the gym, and then keep those people in the gym with giving them something innovative to go with. But small group training is lucrative, and it really allows us to bring in more people at once and to teach them the benefits of being in a small group.
And
but I just want to say one more thing. We thought we'd get rid of all of our selectorized equipment. Remember when I said that a couple of years ago in a webinar? We were going to make space for everyone to feel comfortable in their own skin. But we've really found that we have kept the selectorized equipment in a small amount because there's people that need it. So I found that with beginners, it's important to understand that we have to meet them exactly where they are. And then maybe we have to even take them out of a group and bring them back to a group when they've passed their prerequisites of understanding their body awareness. But we've kept the selectorized equipment. We're meeting everybody where they are as soon as they walk in the door. And the small group is, for us, is 4 to 8. We don't go bigger than 4 to 8.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, 4 to 8.
How many are in those small groups?
Yeah.
And I know that it's very unique what's going on now. Sometimes you put strangers together. Okay. And that actually, these are individuals. You're in Florida, a lot of people from the Midwest, especially from Rochester and Chicago, cold environments in the winter. They move, they're going to Florida and they don't know anybody. So these small group trainings, it's a great way to meet people. And do you get the majority of people that are like independent, that just show up in a small group and you assign them? Or do you also have groups of friends that sign up together?
Both. And we periodically put try me sessions in, or weeks where we invite people personally and do pop-ups. But you're right, Sarah, they're never downplay the socialization of small group. That's what keeps people there. So we're giving them a reason to come. We're putting out trials and times, because some people have to work on the time frame. Other people want to work with people they've met before. But no matter what, we're giving them an opportunity to join. We're giving them an opportunity to stay, because they're more attentive to not only their bodies and the being consistent, the consistency challenge. And then we're giving them a reason to recruit. So now the recruiting is so important. They're bringing more and more people, whether they're snowbirds or not, coming to Florida. More and more of their friends are joining. So it's become a great big cycle for productivity. And our coaches like it. Our coaches love it. We don't lose a coach in our facility because they make more money per hour.
Oh, that's
so they're upskilling themselves to be able to handle the group. And it's not a burnout business for anybody.
Andrea, how are you managing that at your facility?
You mean the group aspect?
The group aspects,
and
small
introducing
group
people
training, and also with, FLX, are you dealing with reformers? Because I know it's primarily Pilates based. Am I right?
Right. 2 of our studios have a dozen reformers each. And then the bar yoga mat studio has 4 reformers for privates and duets. So we primarily are doing some type of mind-body connection. I did want to, mention that the introduction doesn't always have to be at the beginning of a class. For us, we do an introduction always at the end of the class. Tell us your name, where you're from, and we have a question every single day that the instructors ask. I just chat GPT, give me 365 questions that will help bring community, make people feel good about themselves. So we always, every single class, there is a commitment to learning people and be able to get them to connect. Because the more that they connect and they hang out together before, during, or after class, they're more comfortable, they're more relaxed. So all of those things make sense. And it seems to be quite easy. Every business has to run in a certain way to build community. When I asked at your conference what makes a great class, the number 25 people were like, oh, well, I make sure everybody knows each other. Oh, I make sure everybody has a good time. There was nothing about form, safety, choreography, nothing about that in the great class question. So I find that that's very interesting. No matter what age, we are trying to get people to connect so they feel part of something and they want to stick with it. As we give them the results, of better muscle coordination in 2 weeks, and actual muscle change and lean body fat, and little tidbits of information about their health, they keep staying.
Yeah, I really like that. I always look at training and seeing their bodies. They want to make results. They want to be able to say, oh, look at, I can fit into my old jeans, that old thing that people say. But that takes about 10, almost 12 weeks sometimes for people's body to significantly change, and they get better and better and better. And then they start plateauing, and they might even, if they keep doing the same exercises, their body gets more efficient. They burn less calories. It's less energy expenditure. If we don't keep them entertained for that first week, second week, third week, all the way through 6, 8 weeks, if we don't keep them entertained, if we don't keep them connected, they ain't coming back. They're not getting the results, and we lose that consistency. And that's that, I like what Ann said, that consistency battle, that we want to keep them moving, which is very interesting. Keli, what type of equipment are you seeing to be the most effective? And oops, I'm going to also ask this question. Well, Leslie asked a very good question in the chat. She asked this of Ann, but Ann, I'm going to first ask it of Keli, because I know she does work on Zoom. Do you do small groups on Zoom, or primarily, Keli, do you also do one-on-ones in Zoom?
I do both. I do small group on Zoom, and I do one-on-one on Zoom. So I do both. And I keep the equipment pretty simple. I'll use dumbbells, mat, resistance tubing, loop band, stability ball. And that's about it. I keep it very, very simple. I do like, when I'm working live, I'll use I'll add a TRX to that, maybe a BOSU ball as well, just depending again on the person's, meeting them where they're at, seeing where they're at in their fitness progression, in their fitness journey, and using the type of equipment that allows me to do progressive resistance training with them, so that I'm continually, so that they're not hitting that plateau, so that they are continuing to make gains.
Yes. And how are you managing on Zoom with your small groups?
We're doing fine. One piece of equipment that I use, see it back there? It's black. It's called the chair, right? Because during COVID, my aquatics students lost their ability to move. I mean, everybody in Tampa hit the streets. It was in March when we closed. I know we're not talking about COVID anymore, but sometimes it's a good vision to think about it. Everybody in Tampa hit the streets except the aquatic students and members, and I had to worry about my attrition and retention. So I learned to use that little black thing back there called a chair as a piece of exercise equipment. It became the incline bench. It became the decline bench. It became a plyometric box. It was everything that we could have had in the gym that we didn't. So don't be afraid. I have a program I call Dare to Chair, and it is taught on Zoom and in the club. Don't forget, instructors out there and coaches, the value of making people feel comfortable in a starting position on the chair. So I make it like Keli, very basic. Look at what's there. Kel, right? Not very much equipment at all. Keeping it simple makes people feel confident. Yes, ma'am.
How many people are you doing with your small group on Zoom? And do you deliver equipment? Do you, like Keli was talking about, a lot of equipment like tubing and loop bands, and do you send them all a link to Amazon where they can go and purchase it? Yeah, you're not. That's
Yes, but I'm not sure that they're getting what I want. So guess where we put it? We put it in the club, and they can start to get it from the club starting this month. And then we're going to be transferring into the Zoom classes. So we give them the ability. In COVID, we allowed them to drive up and get some things from the club, but be in control. 4 to 8 is mastery for me. Anything more than that, I'm distracted. I'm a distracted person anyway, so I'm all like squirrely, right? So 4 to 8 people, I feel like I'm in control, and they feel like they're getting a safe and secure exercise experience.
Yeah, and safety is key. Ed, what do you think? Now this is kind of crazy, but I know you think about this a lot like I do. What exercises are the safest, and what exercises are also the most effective? And I know, again, we keep talking about personalization with whatever person's arriving, but there's got to be some generalizations out there.
And the safest are the ones that are performed the best with good technique, because there's a bunch of different ways. We use the example that you can do skull crushers for your triceps and go over your head like this, and you're going to be at risk for a cervical spine injury, a disc herniation, all sorts of stuff. There's a whole lot of safer ways to work the triceps muscles. So finding a good program that works the major muscle groups in the safest way possible. And sometimes I think we get, there's a lot of stuff out there, and people will try and get people to do a lot of stuff. And, you know, you really want the highest yield, highest benefit exercise at the lowest risk. And fortunately, with our knowledge now, biomechanics and movement mechanics, things like that, we can tell a person, and you may have a condition too, like arthritis or something like that, where we'll have to modify how we work the muscle. But the safest ones are the ones that are going to be with the best technique, the best well-performed, and work the major muscle groups and work the groups that we use in life. There's two types of exercise. There's isolated. You think of like sitting in a chair and doing a knee extension. That's an isolated exercise for your quadricep. And then there's integrated, like doing a squat. And they're tools, you know, they're both, we use examples. Sometimes you can have a hamstring strain. You need to get that hamstring strong again before you can do an integrated exercise. So that's not all isolated good, all isolated bad, all integrated good, or vice versa. But you want to do exercises, we like the term functional, that are functional to life. And for a squat, for example, and then it's a classic exercise that's how you get up and down on a chair and on the toilet. So a squat is a very functional exercise. So working muscles in the way in which we use them in life or in sport is really important. And we have a lot of pickleballers out there. We have an example in sports. We say you shouldn't play your sport to be in shape. You should be in shape to play your sport. And what that means is getting the muscles used in your activity, your chosen sport, your chosen activity, used to what you're going to be doing to them and prepared for the work they're going to be doing. Runners, they have a risk of Achilles tendon, that big, thick tendon, the Achilles. They can get Achilles tendonitis. We want to really strengthen that calf and that calf-Achilles complex so that if you want to run and want to advance your running, you'll be prepared to handle the loads of running. So all those things, prepare for life, prepare for function, and prepare for the sport or activity that you want to do, and do all of it with the best form, best technique possible.
It's interesting. You know, I play pickleball, and you know, that's the way I tore my meniscus was I was wearing the wrong shoes. I was wearing like outdoor shoes. It started raining. I went inside and the floor is all sticky and my feet are wet and sticking. And of course, my knees moved and my feet didn't. And it's not my favorite. But one of the things I always think about is when you say preparing for the sport, what's interesting is we're taught to squat back. Always put your weight on your heels because you don't want your knees going way over your toes. You want them tracking properly towards the toe, but not going way over. Yet, when we're playing tennis, when we're playing pickleball, when we're skiing, we're on those toes. You want to be forward. So I want to make sure that I'm strong in that position, not over compensating, let's say, and moving too far forward, but I want to train for the sport I'm going to be doing. And I do like Keli, you mentioned that your client was getting ready to go on the Camino Trail, to go on this long, oh my gosh, how many days is it? How many miles? You can split it up, but people walk for weeks and weeks on end. I actually was there. And I was visiting in, where were we? We were in Spain, and it was the beginning of the Camino Trail, and it was the crack of dawn. And of course, you know, your time warp, you're all messed up because it's Europe and I'm used to America. So I woke up like at the crack of dawn, like at 5 a.m. and I'm looking for coffee. And all I could find was this one shop and all these Camino walkers there. And the bonding that was going on. And the discussion about how should I stretch and how should I prepare? And I swear, I felt like I was giving a lecture. There were about 15 of them there. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, I want you to lunge back with one leg and bend your knee. And then I want you to lean, you know, you got to stretch the front of the thigh, the hip flexor, the calf. And we talk about these major muscle groups. It was so incredibly interesting, and individuals of various ages, and the individuals that have the time to do some of the more sports like the tennis, the pickleball, the hiking, the mall walking. And we're older adults, we have more time. Andrea, what do you find that are the exercises that are the safest and the most effective for your older adults to be training?
Well, I just want to touch on the fact that we use words like stretch and mobility. That's one of our class names, so that we're using the right marketing and terms to bring people in to understand where we're at. But, you know, I'm going to start with just walking and single leg balance and being able to lift that knee, and single leg touchdown or a mini squats, because everyone's at a different place. So I've got to provide all of those progressions in a group class. And we're doing mainly group classes. When we're on the reformer, it's a little easier because there's so much feedback from the movement of the reformer. We're laying down a lot of times, which feels very safe. Unless your reformer is completely on the floor, and then it's hard to get down and up. And you have to think of those things of what kind of equipment can I use? And I just want to touch upon the chair, because Anne made me think we use the chair not just for bar classes, but we use it for mat Pilates as well. So it's not just a thing for senior classes. If you have chairs, you don't even need ballet bars, although I love my ballet bars, because a lot of the stuff that you can use in the chair, you can do in the bar classes as well. So safest exercises, I'm going to focus on the back side of the body. So I'm going to be working on my bridges, whether that's with the ball, a slide disc, just the feet on the floor or the feet up against the wall. I'm going to work on lat rows and lat pull downs, whether I'm using a band or I'm doing a single arm, rear delts, everything that's for the back posture is where I want to be after I get them balanced and stable.
Yeah, interesting. What type of frequency is optimal for working out? What do you find, Anne, works with your group?
Saw me smile, right? Because I'm been such a more is better person for 40 years, but we're finding there's an increased need of recovery, and we're finding the average person at our club is only coming twice a week for strength. And I remember from Dr. Ed, he taught us 2 years ago, I think, at the start of that research that showed that we're getting just as much gain from 2. I hope you'll repeat that tonight, but we have really focused on teaching twice as good. There's all those different factors. One, they want to do other things at the club. They want to use the pool. They want to use the hot tub. They want to learn Pilates. They want to focus on outdoor activities and neat activities with their friends and family. So we're really pushing the fact that 2 is enough, and there is a need for an increased amount of recovery time for the older active adult. So we've been able to expand on some new programs and options in our club to focus on recovery. Our recovery boots, our little Normatec boots are so popular, people wait in line now. And we're seeing an increase in people's real understanding of that.
But what were you saying? Recovery what?
Our recovery boots, our little Normatec boots that they slide up and they get we added that as a revenue source, and it took off like crazy. And I think the biggest thing is that people really want to be educated on the best way, like we said, safe and secure, so that understanding the research and then us educating them as to the need for recovery has been very beneficial for our business.
And what is that called again? When we put the resistance training, when we have those inflatable, I think this is what you're talking about, Anne, the inflatable leggings, and they do arms. Louis does that a lot for rehab. I did it for rehab, the blood restriction therapy that people do. So what happens is you put on, it's almost like a pant leg, but then you blow it up so that you've got compression on the musculature. And what happens is it's harder for the blood to flow through the veins and the arteries, and the muscle and the body has to work harder to push it through. And you can even stand up with them and do squats. That's what they had me do to rehab my leg. My quad and my calf, et cetera, after I injured my knee, to strengthen without having to do as many repetitions. And can you explain it better than I do?
I think you did good, Sarah. We use blood flow restriction training a lot in rehab because we can, like you said, if you have an injury, we can start people off and have them working the muscle at a much lower weight level, but actually a very nice intensity level, because the blood flow restriction will cause that muscle to work hard and actually stimulate those things we talked about as far as proteins and muscle building type properties. But I think, the greater principles, as you said, is the recovery. We need recovery time. And as people get older, they need a little more recovery time. We tend to think we work a muscle group. You don't want to work it on consecutive days. So if you work bicep on Monday, you don't want to work it on Tuesday. We say, okay, Wednesday. But maybe as you get older, maybe it's Thursday, maybe it's Friday. And you can maintain gain very nicely once we were at a level with a 2-day-a-week program. But a lot of these programs you may hear with the professional athletes too, like Tom Brady, cold, compression, as Ann was describing, those are all designed to reduce inflammation. And after we do intense work in a muscle, it gets swollen and it gets inflamed. And if we can limit that response, we can eliminate maybe some of the toxic metabolic products that a muscle can make. You've heard of that delayed onset muscle soreness, the soreness we get after doing something we haven't done before. We can kind of limit that with some of these strategies of the compression boots and all that. But the greater principle is recovery. We need time to always build up and not just always break down. So
little thing, can I add one little thing?
Yes, go ahead, Ann.
I hate to interrupt. It keeps them in the club longer too. From the business side, they are socializing in that corner when they all have their boots on and they're talking about what level they're at. I love to talk about the science, but they love the fact that they're all together. They're staying in the club longer. They're spending more money. So I look at that side of the business. You look at the science. I think we go together well.
Kelly, you've got to share about your cycling and your masters competition, because I consider you a pro athlete here.
Oh, I'm definitely not no one's paying me to ride a bike outside, but but I am, I'm an endurance athlete, and I have been since the mid-90s. I started riding, and in the early 2000s, I started competing at a national level, and I was always like, some days I would win and some days I would be last, and I never knew. My performance was very, very inconsistent. And so I hired a coach. I had just won the California, Nevada state championships. I went to nationals and did horribly. And so I hired a coach because I really wanted to go back to nationals and do better. And I hired a coach. And one of the first things he had me do was work less intensely and do active recovery. So that meant going down to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena that has a 3-mile loop that's basically flat, and taking my little 18, 17-pound bike in my Lycra and riding around very, very slowly, keeping my heart rate below 100 for 30 minutes to an hour. And I would do that once a week. And I ended up winning the local season and getting top 10 at nationals and winning the state championships again. And the difference in my performance was remarkable, because I went from, being completely inconsistent to being absolutely consistently on the podium at first or second every time I raced. And I slowed down because I was, I was a masters athlete. Even I was over, I think I was 43 or 44 when I started going to nationals.
But it's the recovery.
The
Difference. And what's is Betsy's asking a question. She's talking about she needs some advice on resolving nerve pain. And I think I'm sure what happens with you with the you can kind of say the overtraining, this gives your body time to recover. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's too much working out.
Yeah, I would see a doctor about nerve pain. I wouldn't take that for granted. I wouldn't try and, I'm Dr. Ed might have a better answer for that. I did want to add about the best exercises, because I think of exercises as categories of exercises. So I think of 6 main categories of exercise. You've got a bilateral bend and lift, which is your squat. or your hip hinge, like a deadlift or a hip hinge of some sort. And you've got single leg, push, pull, rotate, loaded, carry. And with those 6 different categories of exercise, I then have a progression of different movements that I can work to meet my client where they're at and use progressive overload to keep them getting stronger. So yeah, I did want to answer that. Yeah.
Oh, good. And can you address some of the advice on nerve pain? And I know it's hard to do it with in a chat box, but
Yeah, it'd be hard because the nerve pain can be caused by many different things. And so a disc in the spine could be pressing on a nerve and causing pain down your leg, or it could be a little bit of diabetes. It could be a peripheral nerve that's been trapped. So we'd have to know a little bit more about that to really give you some accurate recommendations. But for all your clients in general, exercise, as you guys know, releases endorphins, which are the body's natural painkillers. So even our patients, we have at Mayo, we have a chronic pain center where we have patients who have pain, and it's like, doc, it's 12 out of 10, it's all the time, and they've been through everything, and they've been through a lot of tests and a lot of treatments, sometimes a lot of surgeries. What we try and do is mobilize them. And we found there's a lot of studies that show that wherever pain is being generated, that movement helps. Motion is lotion, and exercise is medicine. And the more we can get people moving and active and not giving into it, and really even diseases. Michael J. Fox, has Parkinson's, and he has a story where he, as you know, he got early onset Parkinsonism at a very young age, and very depressed, really had a lot of drug and alcohol abuse. And it wasn't until he started moving again, somebody convinced him, hey, you got to get going with this, that he started getting better. So just about any entity that we have is improved with that. But with the specific nerve pain, we'd have to know a little bit more about where it's being generated from to give you the best treatment advice there.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I would like to address just a little bit of the heat versus cold. We've been hearing a lot about plunging, and we know that women cannot handle as much cold as a man can, and the benefits of heat, but also that it does cause the muscle more inflammation. Andrea, I know that you're like Miss Mobility, and I'm wondering if you have any opinions on this.
Well, we had talked about this again at Midwest Mania, so make sure you tune in. We talked about the benefit of extreme cold or extreme heat on the actual blood vessel, and definitely relating to inflammation. Whether we expand or we contract, that's through the heat or ice, we're going to get increased blood flow when the body comes down to room temperature. But we were all kind of in agreement in the panel that icing is probably better for inflammation than adding more heat to it. If the muscle's already warm and you can feel it warm to the touch, you don't want to then increase heat, because now we're letting those blood vessels go, and blood just floating everywhere, and you're going to have a hard time getting rid of that inflammation without any kind of movement or massage or some type of drainage. So ice is probably where I would lean to. They're great for both heat and ice, but if the tissue's already warm, it only makes sense to cool it down.
And we did have a question from Leslie. Leslie wanted to know, and this is a little off topic, but I found it very interesting. How do you justify the value of buying 12 reformers? And do you have an elevator pitch that you use with people to encourage them to join your reformer programs?
Well, first off, I don't know if you realize it, but reformers are no longer $6,000. You can get one for around, 3 or 4. And the investment definitely was a big one initially, but we don't do any paid lead generation. People see Pilates and they are coming in the door. It's one of the #1 trending things. It's low impact, it's core, it's balance. I was on a webinar today and people were talking about lead generation, and basically people will come in and they'll say it's expensive. I'm like, I know it's expensive, but it's what your body needs. It's what we're using in physical therapy places. So I justify it because it it's a easier way to build a studio than just trying to use the old group fitness, which they can get at the specialty, or not the specialty, at the big gyms like the Lifetimes of the world. So boutique fitness on the Reformer has, I've opened 3 Pilates Reformer studios in the last 18 months, and I plan on doing another 3 in the next 18 months. So
it's working.
It's working.
It's working.
The
It's
investment,
definitely working.
0 interest credit card on the first studio, 0 interest credit cards, financed everything. So get some good credit and put it on there with a an 18-month, and make your payments, and you'll be surprised at where you can go.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for helping her. One of the things I found fascinating is there's a great study out there that compares older adults that were age 72, and this study actually went for 16 weeks, and they took 3 different groups of individuals. They had one group that was exercising 1 and 1, which means 1 cardio workout and 1 strength workout once a week. Like Monday they would do strength, Thursday they would do cardio, and it was working out between a half an hour and 45 minutes each. And these are 72-year-old individuals, and it was over a 16-week period, and it was a lot of individuals in this study. And then there was another group that was 2-2. Monday, Wednesday was strength, Tuesday, Thursday was cardio. And then there was a group that was 3-3, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that was strength, and Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, that was cardio. So they were working out 6 days a week. We had a group that was working out 4 days a week, and another group that was working out twice a week. And when they looked at it, all 3 groups all lost approximately 3 pounds of body fat, and they put on about 0.5% of lean muscle mass. So they all made the same gains. These are older adults. If somebody working out 6 days a week, somebody else working out 2 days a week, you think about that, those are great results. The one thing that they found different is that group that was working out 3 and 3, they actually stopped with the energy expenditure, where they looked at 3 different types of energy expenditure when you're during the exercise program, when you're just sitting on a couch, and a total full day energy expenditure, like when you wake up in the morning and you take a walk, and then you take the dog, and then you babysit your grandchildren, and then maybe you're meeting your friends to mall walk or go shopping. And they looked at those 3 different types of energy expenditures. The group that was working 2-2 had the best ability to expend energy because they were getting a significant time to recover. So instead of working out the 6 days a week, like we have always been taught, and then taking 1 day of rest, working out 4 days a week and taking 3 days a week as they got older seemed to be the most effective. And the other thing they found psychologically, because I know, Anne, you love this type of stuff, is when you're working out 6 days a week, they felt exhausted, and that they weren't, a large number of them were concerned that they wouldn't be able to keep up the exercise regime. So I think that was a fascinating study, because I feel like if I don't work out 6 days a week, if I'm tired one day and I'm 66 years old, shame on me. And that, Kelly, that was the same guilt you felt by going round and around a track, keeping your heart rate under 100 beats per minute. We think we've got to exercise extensively, but all those groups lost the same amount of body fat, gained the same amount of lean muscle mass, and they were able to continue without discomfort. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Can I just say more? Yeah, more is not necessarily better. And there was another study, Sarah, on Tour de France bicycle racers. And, you think these guys, they're incredible exercise for that month, doing over 2,000 miles, but every night they get all the sleep they need. They get all the calories they need. They have personal dietitians. They have masseuse. They have everything they need. So you think this is the ideal exercise situation. They're exercising every day. They're eating exactly what they should be eating. They're getting the rest they need. Perfect, right? Well, the Tour de France bicycle racer average loses 1/3 of their muscle mass at the end of that month. because they're always breaking down, breaking down, breaking down. Even these elite athletes who have everything replaced, they're not giving themselves any anabolic time. They're breaking down.
To recover. Yeah. Interesting. Keli?
Yeah, I was going to say, I notice just on an observational level, when my husband does like 100-mile ride, he comes home and lies on the couch for the rest of the day. His NEAT, his non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is what you were alluding to with
Neat. Yeah.
is lower when he exercises longer. And I see that in myself. When I exercise really hard, I am less likely to go for a little walk to the end of where I live at the beach. So I might go for a walk along the pier to look at the sea lions when I'm feeling rested, versus when I've done a lot of hard, heavy exercise, I tend to have less NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Well, I think you're incredibly neat. Okay. And on that note, we're 1 minute over 7 o'clock. I want to thank you all for joining us. We had almost 90 people on this webinar. That's so cool. And Gilbert, you're amazing, and best of luck with the facility. Same with you, Andrea. God bless you for showing up, man. You're a rock star. And Dr. Ed, as always, we love you, man. You add such an element of education for all of us. And Keli, you're just a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm Sara Kooperman. I'm with SCW, and I want to thank Chris for keeping us cats on time and focused. Chris is our lead designer with SCW. So if you like our artwork, it's because of him. All right, guys, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. We look forward to seeing you at the next Mania. Don't forget, we're going to be in San Diego, and the very next weekend, we're going to be in Boston, coast to coast. We look forward to seeing you there.